in our society to make sure that there are more diverse voices heard, but also that we're integrated into the culture as it stands right now, whether it's in Canada or the US. Whether we refer to it as a soup or as a mosaic, the ingredients are largely white and Eurocentric, and our presence tends to be very small. So a lot of my work has been focused on improving and shifting culture. And if you guys want, you can take a look at the website for a project called Celebrate Everything, which is a way to improve culture through celebration of more diverse holidays, and also taking a look at a tool I developed called testbias.com. And that tool helps people identify the biases they carry so that they can start to work on the challenges that they face. But in shifting culture, as somebody who's worked through, like as an author and as an academic, having published in the academic space, I can tell you the ability to publish becomes increasingly difficult when you're a person of color speaking from a cultural lens. If you're talking about white issues or issues that impact white people, it's far easier as long as you don't challenge, the cultural supremacy of whiteness in our culture. And that becomes a real problem because as much as we say we want to be inclusive, our voices don't have the ability to impact culture. And so the goal of the press in general, Lead with Diversity Press, was really meant to be able to shift that considerably. So it's a small boutique press, and we really just wanted to make sure that we were publishing the works of exclusively authors of color. And so the more people of color we could publish, the more authors of color we could publish, the more that I hope not just gets them published, but begins careers, right? Because now once you're published, you have the opportunity to grow. And so we were very, very thankful that we had a broad range of authors, both who are established and those that were new and upcoming in the poetry of angry Black and brown people. Now, this book it's interesting because it's already caused a lot of heat, right? And so, it's interesting that we can't even reclaim words. We can't even challenge stereotypes without it upsetting people. So the book was originally the poetry of terrorists and other angry Black and brown people. The idea here of challenging this label, because we get stuck with this so much that we can't look beyond the label. We literally won't look beyond the cover of the book. And so we removed that, but we kept it in the artwork. And if you want, I would encourage you all to read the foreword. But even with this, people won't look beyond the cover of the book. And the poetry, and you'll hear today from all the poets, ranges, right? It's not all political. It's not all anger. It's love, it's comedy, it's quirk, it's fantasy, right? And it is rage too. It's all of that. And so that's the whole point. The point of this book, of TPOT, was really to challenge, this idea of this facade of how we are faced as people, and to look beyond that, and to even look at the anger that we do carry, because the anger we carry is legitimate and it's human. And we are denied the ability to even have the very normal human emotion of anger, of sadness, of rage, of happiness, of love. We are stuck in a single view of who we are as human beings. And so it was with great pride, and I have to thank considerably to the two contributing editors, Sam Turen, who's an amazing writer and an editor, and communications professional. Highly, highly thank her. And Anthony Farrell, who's actually a TV writer. And you see one of his pieces, which is prose and it's fantasy based. But Anthony Farrell was a writer for, if people in Canada know, Little Mosque on the Prairie, and in the US, where everybody knows The Office. So a very well-known author and TV writer. So big thanks to them and to every single person. We published 41 authors of color in a single swoop, right? And that means that lifts. So this book doesn't just lift one person. It lifts 41 people at the same time. Now, the really good news, and this is a really good reason to support Tuma or Tuma's Bookshop, is that up until December 2nd, we donate 100% of all publisher profits to the orphans in Gaza. And so this book, and in perpetuity from now on, 20% of all publisher profits will go towards that. And so the book is not just lifting the voices of people here. We're very proud to be able to lift the voices of people worldwide, including 2 poets in this book who are currently in Gaza. So I thank you very, very much for this opportunity, and I thank you all for attending. And I think what I'll do is I'll start, if that's okay, the readings off with the poem that I put in the foreword that I wrote to challenge this view of this concept of our legitimate anger and frustration. And it's called, since we didn't put it in the, I didn't put it in the title, I wanted to put it in as a poem. It's called The Poetry of Terrorists. Our poetry was a song, without words, a hum, that came after our tongues were removed from our mouths for speaking about the value of our lives. Our poetry was just us living, a protest and a chant, made loudly in a song by those who still allowed to keep their speech, bringing it to the streets, wearing flags and rebellion. Our poetry was a strategy who made many uncomfortable for converting you to your very own humanity. Our poetry was a guttural cry that lived more than it spoke, a political movement to dethrone tyranny, so we could live our lives with the privilege of boredom. Our poetry was a recipe, food that fed our souls and yours with the spices to live more than we speak. Our poetry was your fear, that we would get up off our knees, look you in the eye. Our poetry is our humanity, our worship, our love, our anger, our freedom, our hunger, even when labeled terrorism. Our poetry is our ability to regenerate our tongues and consistently take back our power.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing about the project and the inspiration. I really can't wait to dive in and read every single poem slowly. And the opening poem is just so powerful as well. I felt chills as I was listening to it. Yes, we do need more spaces to embrace our range, right? Because this feeling as if it doesn't exist can be so I don't even have the words, but I'm sure the poets in this collection can kind of try to capture that feeling of these systems that are there to oppress us, and then the confusion of why we're angry. What do you mean? Why don't you understand why we're angry, right? So thank you for that. So this is just the small taste, and now we're gonna move into hearing from our 14 poets who were able to join us today, and we really appreciate them giving their time. As we're listening to the poets, I will spotlight each poet so that they are front and center, and we can, everyone can kind of see them. And as we are listening to them, if you could limit the chat, I find when I'm in virtual events, if the chat's going crazy, it can be a bit distracting, and we want to give our readers their utmost our utmost attention. And then but feel free to use the reactions, because because sometimes we think oh, they're writers, they got this, they're not nervous. No, as human beings, when you care about something and it's your work and is meaningful to you, you're gonna be nervous. I might seem a little confident right now, but I'm shaking. I people are oh my god, you run a bookstore, that's so cool. And I'm still still am scared to do things. So you know, getting those reactions can really like uplift you. So feel free to use those. And then any questions you have as people are reading, just jot them off to the side, because then towards the end, we'll have a Q&A portion and you can ask questions to the whole group, to all of the poets, or if like someone's poem speaks to you and you want to ask a question to them directly, you can do that as well. Just, you know, jot down their initials next to your question so that you remember. Okay, so I'm gonna pass it back to Dr. Abderrahman to do like mini intros of each poem as they come up, and then I'll just be here to support.
Wonderful. Okay. So I'd like to start off by inviting Agnes Lopez to read. And I'm going to read the bios that they provided that are all in the books. So Agnes is the youngest daughter of Filipino immigrants, originally from Jersey City, New Jersey. She currently lives in the Bronx, New York, and has been a teacher for over 20 years. Writing is a way for her to heal from past traumas, process the present, and to share joy and hopes for a liberated future. Everybody, please welcome Agnes.
Thank you. Oh, I'm fighting a bit of a cold, so I'm gonna try my best. Okay. The poem that I'm gonna read today, I wrote as part of the work that I've been doing to really figure out my identity as a person, with my family. I didn't have a lot of those resources growing up. So a lot of just, I didn't have that when I was growing up. So, yeah, so I wanted to reach out to, you know, my ancestors from before colonization, and they sent back a to-do list. So it's called To-Do List from My Ancestors. Don't forget, we were warriors. Don't forget the revolution in our bloodline. Don't forget, our people slayed colonizers. Don't forget, we refused to forget. Don't forget, we were resourceful. Don't forget, we span islands, we span decades, we span centuries and millennia. Don't forget that before there were military bases, there were mountains and hills and valleys. Don't forget, before they were, we were. Don't forget, before they were, we were. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Agnes. Thank you so much. I love how all of these pieces just evoke so much relatability, and that was one of the hopes that that we get out of this, is that there was a common platform for all of us to stand on. Thank you so much, Agnes. Okay, I'd like to introduce Somia Sadiq. Somia is actually a fellow Winnipegger and a friend and a colleague. Somia is an award-winning entrepreneur, a global peace negotiator, and a thought leader in conflict transformation strategies. As the founder of Narratives Inc., Kahani and Kahani Suno, she leads groundbreaking initiatives in reconciliation between parties, impact assessment, and trauma-informed leadership. A sought-after keynote speaker, she brings sectors with strategic vision, storytelling, and humor. Inducted into the prestigious College of Fellows of the Canadian Institute of Planners, she's recognized for shaping the profession through human-centric planning. Inspired by her lived and learned experiences, Somia is a storyteller, weaving ancestral wisdom for the generations to come. Please welcome Somia.
Hello, everybody. Wow, I'm already feeling so moved, Agnes. Thank you. Thank you so much. So up until last night, I was going to read A Land That Knows My Name. And then I woke up this morning with my heart telling me I need to read a different one. So the poem I'm going to read to you is called A Love Letter to My Brown Grandchildren. And it's inspired by this idea of leaning on our ancestors to pass on love and wisdom, as opposed to passing on our trauma. So I'll read that one. A love letter to my brown grandchildren. Come here, my sweet ones. Let me hold your hands. Trace the constellation written in your palms. Did you know the color of your skin was stolen from the cosmos? That the earth and the stars conspire to make you this shade of wonder? Look, do you see the amber glow of Lahore at dusk? The way the sun melts over the city, kissing the minarets, spilling saffron and copper onto the rooftops? That color, my loves, is woven into your skin. And Kashmir, oh, Kashmir, have you seen its valleys when autumn arrives? The deep russet of the chinar trees, the soil rich with stories, the mountains draped in shades of cinnamon and sun-warmed clay? That too lives in you. But it's not just the earth that has lent you its beauty. The cosmos too has wrapped itself around you. Have you ever looked into the night when the stars bloom across the sky? The deep bronze of a dying sun, the gold of a comet's tail, the quiet shimmer of galaxies folded between time and eternity? These are not just things you see. These are things you are. Your skin is the color of worlds colliding, of stories older than memory, of prayers whispered into the wind and carried across oceans. Do not let them tell you otherwise. Do not let them call it dull or unworthy or not enough. Your skin is the shade of marigolds in full bloom, of chai kissed with honey, of the first touch of dawn when the world has not yet learned to open its eyes. Come closer, my loves. Let me hold your faces in my hands. Let me press my forehead to yours and remind you, you are made of stars. You are made of earth. You are made of fire and river and wind. You are the universe wrapped in the most beautiful shade of home. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Soumya. That's a wonderful, wonderful piece. And now we're going to continue with Winnipeggers. I'd like to invite Anusha Victor Kitching to read. Anusha writes some of the most refreshing poetry that I've ever read, and one that makes me laugh sometimes so hard that my belly hurts. So Anusha Victor decided to be a journalist at 8 when she saw her name in print under her article, What I Want to Be When I Grow Up. Ditching previous career aspirations, she chose to make her mark in the deadline-driven industry, a decision she sometimes regrets. Anusha has more than 20 years of publishing experience working in newspapers, broadsheet and tabloid and magazines, online and in print, on 3 continents. Currently based in the Canadian prairies, she lives in a little brown house with her husband, daughter, and dog. She dreams of writing books and performing poems for a living. Please welcome Anusha. Anusha will be reading 2. We asked her to read 2 because her poems are a bit shorter and they're absolutely lovely.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. Hi, everyone. So I have 2 poems because mine are very short. But okay, here goes. So this first one is called Thrift Story. And I wrote it a couple of days after we landed in a small city in Manitoba called Portage la Prairie. We moved, kind of my husband, my daughter and I moved from London in 2 weeks, and we packed everything up. Everything we owned in 4 boxes, and we came. So I was bereft, really, when I saw what I saw, and then I wrote this poem. So here goes. Picking through the brittle of your life, chipped teacups, gold rims tarnished and thin, grubby fingers staining glass vessels where the shadow of your lips once lay. An imprint of the night when claret flowed and you stood with flowers in your hair, a hand raised in toast, your cheeks flushed as you gazed at him. Your prize, The catch. He laid you down on sheets of pristine white, a crochet flower your grandmother stitched pressed into the small of your back. 3 summers have fled since your shadow lingered on the lawn of the red brick. 3 summers where these things lay unloved, unmoved. She packed them up the first of your 5, that unseasonably warm autumn morning, when the orange-red leaves clung on stubbornly to oak and ash and plane, all dried out. Stained yellow sets sit on shelves as greedy grabbers sift through the grains of your memories. She shifts her gaze. There is nothing left here to linger for. That's one.
Thank you.
And my second one, all my poems are untitled. My second one is called Eat Me. When I was 14, somebody's wife told me not to have another slice of cake because of my mother's side of the family. You see, they were all varying degrees of fatness, from cute fat to obese fat, and she didn't want me to go down that same road. Now, if you know me, you've heard this story more than once. In fact, you probably heard it a few times. I often tell it as I stuff wedges of cake in my mouth in as grotesque of a manner as I can, my delayed 2 fingers up to her. Now, some might say that was me reclaiming my power, but my hold was so slippery. I wouldn't dare do it now. My body has changed, just like she warned. And decades later, I have the very same wide childbearing hips of my mother and the soft belly of my grandmother, that Tamil bum that jiggles as I walk, and that waist, still small, but not as tiny, not as teeny tiny as when I used to starve myself for days on end, surviving on coffee and nicotine and the odd green apple here and there. My face is round like an orange, and my body is a pear. I dare you to eat me. Thank you.
That is one of my most favorite poems in the book. I strongly encourage you to read all of Anusha's work, who I pressed strongly to put all of her work into this book because it was just so refreshing and cheeky. Please get this book to read her poetry alone. I love it all. Okay, now I'd like to invite you all to listen to Vanessa Shaw. Vanessa has a strong background in visual arts, having studied photography, journalism, and graphic design. A Directors Guild of Canada member, she worked with top industry talent on productions like Star Trek, The Handmaid's Tale, See, The Boys, and Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, where she also shadowed as director. She's collaborated with Netflix, CBS, Hulu, and Universal. A diversity advocate, she sits on DGC's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Vanessa's directing began with the Family Next Door trilogy, later producing award-winning shorts. She lectures at film institutes and is currently developing My Life with Ingmar Bergman, supported by the Canada Council. I'd like you all to welcome our star of the show, Vanessa Shaw.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And as I've said before in the Toronto launch, I'm very honored to be here with all of you. I'm usually behind the camera, so this is a little bit uncomfortable for me, but I'll get through it. It's just, I picked a couple of paragraphs from my entry in the book, and yeah, it's mostly about women and a combination of characters that I've known in my life, and how as age takes us over, we feel neglected or forgotten or unseen. So my piece is called Alive by Distraction. I see my image in a mirror as I follow a path to the kitchen. A hand reaches up to fix my hair, and I smile at myself. A face just a little tanned from the glow of my refrigerator door open yet again. A pile of Hannibal-like refreshing masks, used and discarded, sit on my bedside table. They make me feel like I was that girl. My tapping fingers scroll and scroll on my telephone. Quick, meaningless visits to other people's lives. A photo of me barely clings to the refrigerator door. It's curled at the corners, faded by sunlight, and looks like somebody I used to know on a beach, with a man half hidden by a shoulder and a floppy hat. I was that girl. I was that girl. All the photos tell me so. A bus honks outside. Distraction. I was that girl. I was that girl. All the photos tell me so. I remember when I got married, all my friends kept saying, what a dream life I had. Handsome, exotic husband, travels to other countries, romance, love. I had a huge dream of cliffside art studios, sultry looks across fields of golden grass, and cliffs of thrashing waves. I had a lightness back then. I remember it less and less. The bearable lightness of being. I was that girl. I was that girl.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I remember reading that piece and thinking how relatable it would be for so many. One of the reasons we published your work, Vanessa, you don't know this, is because it felt relatable across the board to anybody. And quite often people think that our lives and our stories aren't relatable. And we really appreciated how yours was so much. So thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now I'd like to invite up Sandra Khalil to read her piece. Sandra Khalil writes about decolonization for Arabs in the diaspora and in their homeland because she believes liberation starts from within. Ultimately, this is what poetry is about. She was born and raised by her Palestinian immigrant parents in Houston, Texas. She began to experience a return to her roots while she studied Spanish and Arabic literature in the University of Texas in Austin. She obtained her master's in counseling from Southern Methodist University and now works as a marriage and family therapist in Dallas, Texas. Please welcome everybody, Sandra Khalil.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I will be reading the one submission I had when Dr. Abdul Rahman sent this out to the Psychological Association that we're both a part of. Immediately, this story came to mind. It's actually a memory from my own childhood, but I am sure a lot of folks can relate. So the piece is called Severance. Your grandfather was a terrorist. Words passed through an adult's lips directed at an 11-year-old who immediately regretted ever saying anything in defense of her people. Words shouted, or that's what it felt like as it rang so loud in her mind in the middle of a restaurant. The girl's body turned to stone, frozen, numb, impenetrable. She would not allow herself to feel the humiliation as it crept up her neck and face, coating it red, widening her eyes as she braced against the overwhelming wave of emotion. So she became rigid, wishing she were an impenetrable fortress, much like the ones her ancestors had wished they'd had in defense as they were violently expelled from their homes. The histories told to her by her mother and father that had lived fresh in her mind were pushed into an obscure corner of her mind as she did everything she could to maintain her composure. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, and she was reminded once again how alone she was in this place. No one was there to defend or protect her ancestors, nor was there anyone there to protect her as she faced her friend's mother's vitriol and hatred. Her friend sat at the table shaking her head and saying nothing. Another betrayal. More pain she would have to swallow and absorb into her body. More pain she would numb and silence. How had she even gotten here? An adult that never knew her grandfather had labeled him a terrorist because that's what this country has told them to believe of people that look like her. The words seeped through her walls, insidious and toxic, infecting the roots that connected her to her ancestors. How could this child be aware of the cries and pain of her ancestors as they weep for her too? She couldn't even permit her own, yet they did. They wept for the severing connection and silencing that would occur each time this country poured poison over her roots. Helpless as they watched her struggle with the splitting that continued to fracture her connection with her homeland and with them.
That was incredibly beautiful.
Thanks,
I always love that piece. Thank you so much, Sandra,
Thank you.
for reading. I'd like to now invite up Hanan Mercy Malas to read her piece. Hanan is a well-rounded creative, a disabled member of the queer Muslim community. She pulls from her life, experiences, and identity as an Arab American in all her writing, along with a deep love for history and understanding of the human condition. She holds a degree in CGI and is an aspiring filmmaker and writer with several projects in the works. While she pursues her creative endeavors, she maintains that her greatest achievement is being surrounded by family and friends who love her. Please welcome Hanan.
Hi. So I've been advertising the book using my poem Euphoria, and I really have had to debate, even while sitting here, which poem to read. But I think the one that's speaking most to me today is Khwayla bint al-Azwar, which is a poem about a female knight in the Rashidun army that a lot of people, even nowadays, debate whether or not she even existed. And I will start with that. Khwayla bint al-Azwar. I am just a woman whose heart is burning. A phrase spoken, history in the making. From the battle of the Ajnadain between the Rashidun and the Byzantine, echoed and etched from Khwayla to me, traveling centuries. To breathe, to scream. I am just a woman whose heart is burning. And what that means is still to be seen. That is an actual phrase that she is supposed to have said when she was stopped by Khalid, the general, because she was racing after the Byzantines because they had kidnapped her brother, and she was fighting to get him back. And that phrase has always kind of spoken to me a little bit, that sometimes our passions and our, anger, as it was, especially in the spirit of the book, are that running energy that keeps us going.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hanan. That was a beautiful piece. I really appreciate that.
Mhm.
Well, I'd like to invite now, actually, a bit of a treat. When we put out the call for submissions, it was very nice to see how broad and how wide the call for submissions went. It literally went around the world, and we got submissions from 2 poets in Gaza. And so I want to invite one of them to speak today, Ahmed Sarsour. Ahmed Sarsour is an engineer, a writer, and a poet, a holder of dual Palestinian and Sudanese nationality. He advocates for all human rights with a focus on the Palestinian cause. Through poetry, he channels firsthand experiences of the horrors he continues to witness in Gaza. After living in Sudan for 21 years, he managed to escape the war that erupted there in 2023, only to find himself trapped in the ongoing genocide now devastating his hometown in Gaza. He hopes you can amplify his voice and share his work far and wide. Please welcome Ahmed.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Doctor, for this amazing introduction. And to be honest, I am so blessed to be with you here. For those who don't know, I am self-taught in English. And actually, this is my second attempt to write in English language, and my language is still developing. So for me to join you here and on the book, it's just a blessing. So thank you for including me. This poem that I'm going to read is called Crocodile Tears, and it's about the burial words that I felt that we are living in as a community here in Gaza. It's about how the world chose to look away and only focuses on what's important to them outside there. Met Gala fame looked like Hunger Game. Met Gala dresses and Met Gala shoes. How much money had been spent on these outfits and this muse? Let them eat cake, a celebrity said. What a shame. A Met Gala shame reviving a Hunger Game, but who's to blame? A California dream with LA's modern gleam. A weather forecast that was never foreseen. Met Gala's heroes, representatives of Hollywood, their houses burned by a similar fire once overlooked by James Woods. No ceasefire, no compromise, no forgiveness. Those were his lines. He used them knowing, and it toll is growing, then asked you to look away, and for you orchestrated a play. Kill them all, said filled with rage. Make them suffer, trap them in a cage, send them all back to the Stone Age. LA burning scene, a dreadful echo of Shibalia's camp scene. Hollywood's actors, tears on screen, but still it was nothing compared to my people's scream. To the world, their tears were truthful and ours deceitful. What a world we live in, where selective empathy is a thing. California burned, ashes upon ashes, memories destroyed as fire clashes, a big traffic jam, cars and precious belongings left behind running to survive. No class, no favoritism, in a perfect entangled fire prism, with smoky curse blanketing any vision. Wind paraded the fire flames and laid them on houses' frames. LA screams echoed into our souls. Open the wounds that keep on soul, as much as some deserve what they have lost, others can't be blamed, paying the cost. The cost of the evil schemes, raising funds and sending lots of money streams to the monstrous ones, the thieves of our dreams. Gazans humanity saved them, it never failed them. No laugh, no gloat, never wished death crawling up their throat. Our humanity remained intact as we Gazans praised the Lord to save them from nature's. But in 2024, Met-Gala celebrities refuse to answer the call. They attend knowing that this toll is far more growing, worshipping fake idols, praising false gods. They are complicit, making humanity diverge away from the cause. Met-Gala season has passed, a page filled with biblical facade. They cheered for those same forces, the ones exploiting all natural resources, trying so hard, changing humanity courses, bringing destruction all over the globe. They intend to steal the bar of your hopes, so open your eyes, be woke. Tell Haley Bailey, Mr. Woods and their folk, they should consider eating cake, since they finally taste a glimpse of our heart's ache. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that incredibly powerful piece, Ahmed. And it was a real pleasure to publish your work in this anthology. Thank you, Ahmed.
Of course.
Okay. I'd like to now invite up Nicolette Richardson, and I want to read you her bio. Nicolette Richardson is a 30-something-year-old consultant navigating a world where injustice feels ever present and the idea of home seems more elusive every day. A former journalist, human resource advocate, and the chief conversation starter at the grownupmillennium.com, she's passionate about storytelling and connecting the human experience. Specializing in communications, research, and DEI, she thrives in the quiet of 3 a.m. where clarity emerges. Nicolette believes we are all connected. It's our responsibility to find the stories that unite us, live them, share them, and change them. When not working, you'll find her sipping on a ginger tea and reflecting on life's big questions. Please welcome Nicolette.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I was saying to my friend that I had to turn my camera off because I was crying because it just felt like such a validating space to be in this space of people who have similar stories but are a little bit different. I do also want to thank Angelina for sharing this call for poems with me, and also for helping me navigate 4 cold years in Winnipeg. So the poem I'm going to share is What If There's No Calm After the Storm? And just a little bit of a disclaimer, this was written after I had experienced a miscarriage and had gotten pregnant again. And it's not hopeful. It's a little sad. So just preparing you for that. I'm pregnant and I'm happy about it. That last line is as much to remind myself as it is to remind, sorry, let me go over again. I'm pregnant and I'm happy about it. That last line is as much to remind myself as it is to soften the blow of the next 2 words. Child loss. I cannot stop thinking about whether I'll carry this baby full term, whether I am worthy of being more than just a home for a fetus that will not find their home in this world. I haven't shared the news with many people because I don't want their pity. If thoughts become reality, if that reality becomes the truth I hear, the truth I fear, the truth no one ever wants to hear, the truth that screams I am not worthy of being more than just a home for a fetus that will not find their home in this world. Thank you. That was part 2 of a poem that I had written in my debut poetry collection called We Cannot Forget About Slavery. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. I really appreciate you sharing that. I'd like to welcome up next Shehna Javid. Shehna Javid has a long relationship with writing that began in high school when she wrote short poems submitted to the local newspaper. The busy machinations of life paused the writing, but she has returned to it, like a journey back to a familiar and loving place from the past. She has published a chapter on intergenerational storytelling and journaling, grounding her settler, South Asian, and Muslim identity and stepping into the legacy of her author father. She embraces it and is challenged by it. She offers her pieces to you as a woman, a mother, and a higher educational professional. Please welcome Shehna.
Thank you so much. Wow, these are so moving. So I need to compose my own emotions. This is beautiful. So I'll read one sort of one poem and then one very brief one, if that's okay, Dr. Abdurrahman. Starting. Sepia color and a Jodhpuri suit. Sepia color, flowers in hair, a shy smile. Her beauty is silent, simple like the white sari that she wears. A white sari with a light gold border, doing just enough to lift its elegance. Celebrating their union in silent simplicity. The bangles clink as she signs the court papers, solidifying her purpose. Representing strength, his mustache is a clean, dark, curved line on his upper lip. He wears a Jodhpuri suit, a high circular collar around his neck. The sepia color of the photo reflects the times gone by. Witness to a lifetime of passionate arguments, shoulder rubs, and unsolicited kisses. To staying up late, waiting to have dinner together. Long road trips in broken cars. To traveling the world and sleeping on mattresses without box springs. To having less than others and yet having so much. Earning respect and seeking sanctuary. To fading and becoming invisible to prop the other. About us rather than I. She seeks a purposeful life, persisting, freely choosing, or within boundaries because nothing is ever really completely free. His leg braces crack and creak as the crutches move him forward. She holds his bag and the umbrella on the way back from the bus stop, in rain and in bliss. a partnership of safety and comfort for my mother and father. Sepia color of the photo reflects times gone by. This is dedicated to my parents. It's their story. And I'll read. Salam dua khair. Salam dua khair, words I hear frequently. Peace, prayer, and good. My wishes for you, like a warm embrace, like spoken hugs, like wordy kisses. Hearts engaged and guards down, disarmed from despair, healing from pain. Three prongs to anchor life. Salam dua khair. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those poems. I really appreciate it. Okay. I'd like to now welcome Angelina Pelletier-Cisse. Angelina was born and raised in Treaty 1, Gabishkimagag, Swan Lake, Manitoba, and has lived in Winnipeg since 1997. Sometimes known as Ground Zero for Truth and Reconciliation, Winnipeg is home and where she lives with her family today. Her spirit name is Leading Michif Woman, or Nikani Michif Iskwe. Her paternal relations are from the Red River Métis Nation, and her maternal family is Indigenous Fijian and the original inhabitants of the Fiji Islands. Her mother was apparently the first Fijian woman in Manitoba, and when her father convinced her to settle here in the winter of 1985 while pregnant with her, soon after in 1986, and unbeknownst to her, she became the first Michif Fijian baby in Manitoba. She is now the mother of two, Tayshawn and Aminata, and life with her partner, to Abdu. Please welcome Angelina.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. Tanche, bonjour, Bulavinaka. And thank you, Nicolette, for the shout out. Shout out to you as well for encouraging me through your poetry writing. I have two poems that I'm going to be sharing today. The first of which is called Family Tea. And I wrote that on my birthday this year, just reflecting on my life growing up. And after finding a little, because it's a journal that my mom started in 1998 when she got a new tea set at a garage sale. So this was almost a tea diary of hers. And when I found it, this spans over 10 years, and she would write every time she had a tea party with this tea set, she would write notes in this little booklet. And I'm lucky enough to have this since my mom's passing in 2014. So it inspired me to talk about the impact of tea and tea parties growing up as a young child with my mom. So if you do have a cup of tea or a cup of something warm, I invite you to take a sip. Family tea. Sip after sip, tea held us all together. A ritual passed down from my mother and hers. Growing up, an invitation to afternoon tea was seen as a duty. Tea parties, a code for connection. Sitting with my mother and her friends who I called aunties. Within these cups of tea, I learned about love and grief. Spoonfuls of sugar, splashes of milk, and a side of bread. Each cup filling me up in ways I would only later comprehend. Peppermint, lemon, chamomile, and black tea. The flavors didn't matter as much as the company. Oh, the lessons that I would learn, sip after sip. The tea warmed my heart and brought comfort to my lips. Come drink tea with me, a signal for care. Tea became a sort of currency, a measurement of time shared. To decline a cup of tea would be seen as a means of disconnect. Sit with me and drink this tea. Family tea taught me that love demonstrated is irresistible. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more short poem that I wrote this poem about 7 years ago, and I didn't know why I had written it or what I wanted to do with it. It was my first time doing blackout poetry, so this is the original piece as I made it in it's like a group poetry activity with youth that I used to work with at a drop-in center in Winnipeg's North End. And at the time, it didn't mean anything for me, but it came to be impactful and relevant this year, just going through different hardships as an adult. This piece is called Wait Time. And the word wait is W-E-I-G-H-T, as in heaviness. Wait time. Heavy. How relatively insignificant life is. And it didn't even matter if I existed at all. Think of a solution. He said, what would happen if you picked me? What would that mean? I changed. That's true. I'm human, so I changed. You did. I exist. I fell and we cracked. That was how I felt when I decided I would put a Band-Aid on that part of my chest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelina. Lovely, lovely pieces. Thank you. Okay, I'm now going to invite Pampy to come and read one piece. Pampy is a non-binary Gen X Casti Bengali culture worker and 20-plus year newcomer settler on Turtle Island. Rooted in healing and popular education, they create community-centered art that unlocks collective power. Since 2014, they've led Decolonize Our Museums, challenging racist iconography in cultural institutions that take public monies and modeling wage equity. Through Neighborhood Grow Plan, they organize for food sovereignty, cooperative land use, and community determination through a praxis that centers community care and mutual aid. Their work weaves poetry, musical dance, theater, and gardening to shift consciousness towards just, sustainable futures. Please welcome Pampy.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Abdulrahman and Fatuma, for this beautiful gathering. I wanted to just lift up that my father also was the person who held tea here in my family. And he always said, don't ever worry about frying a little bit of food to go with that tea, because sometimes we just need that lift for all the fritters that we eat with our tea. So thank you. Wanted to say that. I'll be reading today Love Letter from a People's Poet to the King's Poet, knowing that sometimes we are both. Oh, Bard, how sweetly you sing, how honeyed your words, spreading hate against those we've been groomed from birth to distrust. You are proud. You are the King's Poet. You delight in making him laugh. It becomes self-loathing when he favors you, but not your kin. Time and again, you've seen him destroy your community. You convince yourself, and he encourages it, that they are somehow not as worthy as you. You sell your gift for chance at immortality, but in future's light, you will only have infamy. Your talent cannot be denied, no, but its purpose lay waste. A bad habit, indeed a learned one. You could have sung for your people, but instead you despise them, for you have learned to believe they are weak. I beseech you because I love you. I understand your power, and I'm using mine to demand you stop. Just stop. Singing? No. Only to reconsider the tales you spin. They could still sparkle in the heavens of people's minds. They could lead us to freedom. Why use them to urge us to accept our suffering as inevitable? Sacrifice for glories rooted in death. False tales, king's poet. Don't you see? You're no more than a puppet and as disposable. With us, you have a chance at truest immortality, celebrating the labor that cultivates a fuller love, one that denounces destructive, greedy, nonsensical pathways by imagining, insisting, building a world where every person flourishes in concert with all beings, silken, tender, ferocious, full-throated in song.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pampi. That was a very powerful reading. Okay. We're a little bit over time, so I hope you're all able to stay for our last poetry reading for today, who actually was the person we put at the front. Really appreciated her voice. I want you to all welcome Muna Don Hijazi. Muna is a queer Palestinian writer, community organizer, and social media advocate. You can read her poetry at Muna Don Poems on Instagram. She has roots in Jaffa, Lib, and is Alabama born, DC raised. Now in the Sonoran Desert as a guest of the Tohono O'odham and Yoam, she cooks, writes, and throws culture-rich gatherings that make belonging tangible. She believes cooking for her neighbors feeds the souls of our martyrs, a practice of care, memory, and resistance. Please welcome Muna. Did we cut you off? Pampi? Oh, no, we didn't. Okay, it's good. Sorry, I just read in the chat. I thought maybe we'd cut off Pampi. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Muna.
I'm happy to hear more of Pampi. So,
Did you finish your piece, Pampi?
I did. I was just joking that my mother just came down the stairs and said, "Are you done?"
Oh, okay.
All the stuff that we do to keep writing, right?
Yeah, right. All right. Sorry. Please go ahead, Muna.
of course. Ahlan wa sahlan, everyone. My name is Muna Don Hijazi. I'll read two pieces for you today. I'll read the piece that our editor started the collection with, and the piece that follows that. So easy. I'll just defer to our editors for the order. Let me take us up here. Eulogy for those we don't count. For you who died after the health ministry fell. For you who died after the hospitals had all been bombed again. For you beneath rubble, trapped forever in stone. For you vaporized by missiles, leaving no trace. For you who are just sand. This breath and every breath after is for you.
Thank you. That's lovely.
I've been a writer all my life, but I assumed that the genocide would take that from me. And I wasn't worried about that at all because as a Palestinian, I have a long lineage of poets I can rely on. But every once in a while, there's a poem that I haven't read yet that I have to then end up writing. And that's where that poem comes from. This is a poem, this next one is one I actually wrote before this most recent iteration of the genocide. It's called Places That Explode. It is a strange thing to have been to a place that explodes. I went to a fish place once on the Mediterranean coast. Glorious platters of fresh catch, piles of ripe fruit. My father called a year after the family reunion there. He said, they blew up the fish place. I said, I knew they blew up the prime minister, but the fish place too? I think of the waiter. Fuck the prime minister. Sometimes it is not just one place, though. Sometimes it is a whole city full of holes, made of holes now. Sometimes so many places explode as you tiptoe through town that you begin to think, maybe my toes are the problem. But if that's the case, where is there left to walk?
I love that piece. What a great way to end today's reading. Thank you so much, Mona.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. I'll pass it back to Fatuma.
Yes. I knew this would be the perfect way to start a Sunday. Like my heart is so full right now and like I can't stop smiling. And I just feel so blessed and honored to be in everyone's presence and to share your work with us, like the vulnerability in some of the poems, the power, the strength, the resilience, which is really inspiring. Like, I don't know, like I'm not a writer, but I feel like I need to write something after we finish, like even if it's a journal entry. And I think that's a testament to like your talent and your passion and your spirit. And so with that, we're a little over time. So I'm still, new to virtual events. And I was like, well, it's virtual. Things should move faster, right? But if you're, able to stay, I'm free. I ain't got nothing going on today. But if you're able to stay for a little bit, we can move into the question and answer portion. But if you have to go to continue through your day, we totally understand. I've shared some links in the chat, right? So the link to purchase the poetry of angry Black and brown folks, Engine and the Family from our bookstore, the poetry of angry Black and brown folks from me will include a signature sticker. We were able to get 19 of the 41 poets to share their signature. And so I just kind of created like a signature plate that you can stick inside of the book when you receive it. And also consider becoming a member of Tuma's Books and supporting our bookstore, especially for our international folks. I'm still too small, so international shipping is actually like insane. And I don't have the volume to like get the discounts from these big companies. So membership is a way that you can support. And then I'm also sharing an event survey because I'm always looking to grow and improve on events. Okay. So all that to say, yes, agree with everyone's comments. This is great. Again, I'm able to stay on for another 15 minutes or so to 12:30 if anyone has questions for our writers or for ourselves. And if not, then we can wrap up here. Thank you so much for the writers again for being here. And if any of you need to log off too, totally understand, no pressure, because we are over time. Okay, I'll stop rambling now. So if anyone has questions, feel free to raise your hand or drop it in the chat. Of course, no problem. I'm so happy to support. I feel as passionate about this anthology, and I think it's definitely something that we need in the world. Okay, any questions? Thank you so much, Fatima. I feel like I'm proud too. Like I think this went really well, and I'm really happy. Okay.
I'm going to ask one question.
Yes.
For people who read the book, including the authors, what was your favorite poem outside of one of your own?
Wait, ask your question again. I think.
Oh, it's just what was your favorite poem?
Okay.
Yeah. or prose.
Okay, Vanessa said Tea Party really brought her joy. Love Song to My Son from Somia. Okay. Anuncia said Nicolette's poem was her favorite. Nicolette can't choose a favorite. I feel like the piece of myself. Oh, I felt like the piece of myself were in each one. I love that. Okay, so there's a question here from Maria. So to the writers, does your vulnerability inspire your words, or is it the reverse? When you start writing, it encourages you to be vulnerable and share your thoughts with the world? That's a good question. And anyone who would like to answer that can just come off mic or raise your hand. All right, Nicolette, go ahead.
I'm only going first because since I shared that poem, a few people have already reached out to me like, you had a miscarriage? For me, it feels like sometimes I am still learning to be vulnerable in a world where it feels like you can't hold my emotions. So I write first to kind of process it. And also write first before I say it to anyone. So that's definitely how poetry has helped me to kind of be an outlet for me to kind of manage these emotions. And then maybe I have the words now to say, okay, I will share this with someone else in that way.
Mm-hmm. SJ's raised their hand.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, hi there. To Dr. Abdurrahman's question, honestly, it's so hard to choose. It's very difficult to choose. Like I've been, like I just opened the book and I start reading from somewhere, and I had read the tea titled poem a little while ago and kind of reflected on, my experience of tea. South Asian folks also drink a lot of tea, and with as a child with adults and what I learned. And so it's so hard. It's so hard. And to answer the question, I think for me, it's being in a vulnerable moment, being in a moment. The moment inspires me, and then I write. I think that's what I want to say is to the question that was in the chat. Sometimes something just strikes me, it like strikes my heart, and then I write a little bit, and then I come back to it. And that's usually how I write. Yeah,
nice.
Thank you.
I'd like Ahmed to answer that question, not to put you on the spot, but writing through the genocide is not an easy task. So,
well, you did put me on a spot here, to be honest. But some pieces, they just come to me like, although I told it like I am a self-taught English and my English is still developing, even it affects sometimes my communication. But actually the poem that I read, Crocodile Tears, I have been seeing all of these scenes of the artists of the Met Gala and James Woods and Halle Bailey. And when I started writing the poem, it only took less than a day, which sometimes takes longer than that, but this poem was easy. So what inspires me to write is the struggle of other people when I feel connected to them emotionally. Most of my poems are not from like self-perspective, or like they are not centered about me. They are all about other people, or like my family members, or like my nephews. A lot of my poems are about my nephew Yusuf and my niece Rose, who were born during the war. So this is how I connect with others. I just write about them. So I don't know. Does this answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much, Ahmed.
Of course.
Okay. All right. I think we've got most of our questions answered, Fatuma.
Yes. Anything else? Going once, going twice. All right. So like, once again, thank you so much for joining us on this cold Sunday. I really appreciate all of the writers for sharing their work. Appreciate all of you for joining us and listening to their work. And I hope you enjoyed their work. Feel free to, follow them on Instagram. Most of them have Instagram accounts, so continue to follow their work. Follow us at Tuma's Books as well. Yes, we can share, and I can also send out an email because I have most people's Instagram accounts as well. Since I've been tagging you guys. And if you are able to purchase a copy of this wonderful collection, I think is one you'll definitely want to own, because they love banning books down here in the States. I don't know if that's an issue in Canada as much, but you might want to own some of these really powerful pieces. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Fatuma.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.